Good evening. We are being recorded live. It's the FHR committee meeting for Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. It is 5:04 p.m. In attendance, we have supervisors Miller, Shakur, Wish, Spencer, Caprillion, and myself, Trottier. Excused this evening is Nielsen, and Youth and Governance Representative here is Gabby Skipper. Excused is Valeria Rivera. I'm going to move on to chairman comments. Everybody's aware, most people are aware, this Thursday is tip-off time. So get your brackets filled out now. I am going to tell you two of my final four are Michigan, my home state I was born in, and Illinois. I do know that the guy from above is probably looking down on me right now saying, why not Madison, UW, Wisconsin, go? So no, they're not going to hear it. Not tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Miller.
as a former friendly rival, I'm sure you'll be happy to note that tomorrow St. Catherine's High School will be in the state tournament for basketball.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yay! Okay, Gabby, can you read the youth and governance statement, please?
Hello, we are the members of the Racine County Youth and Governance Program, and we will be participating in tonight's meeting. This program serves to empower youth in Racine County by encouraging us to participate in local government. We have agreed to abide by the applicable standards of conduct that would govern any elected county board member. While we are encouraged to participate and are allowed to have a non-binding advisory vote on matters before the committee, all formal action taken by this committee will be based solely on the binding votes made by the county board supervisors.
Thank you, Gabby. Next up, public comment. Do we have anybody here from the public that would like to comment this evening? Negative. I will then move on to item number 4. We have approval of the minutes from March 4th, 2026.
So move.
I have a first and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Youth and governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? The minutes from March 4th, 2026 are approved. Next up, approval of the minutes from March 10th, 2026 with the Joint Finance and Human Resource Committee and the Government Services. Do I hear a motion? I have a first and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Youth and governance, all in favor?
Aye.
Committee, all in favor? Are there any nays? Hearing none. The minutes from the joint meeting of FHR and Government Services of March 10th, 2026 are approved. Okay, I'm going to move on to discussion of a project with the Waterford Management District, WWMD, to support sediment removal and water quality restoration in the Tishigan Lake Fox River waterway. This is for information only, and I know I have sitting in front of me, if they could come to the mic, I have Supervisor Greg Horth, and my apologies, I was introduced to the gentleman, but if you could come up and reintroduce yourselves.
My colleague in crime here is Grant Horn. Supervisor Trottier.
Thank you.
Grant Horn.
Thank
Just
you.
want to make sure. Okay.
Thank you for the third time.
Thank you. And
That's GH and GH.
by the way, that's why when we were doing our notes, I had to put the J in for my own, just so I remembered which one I was supposed to talk about. John, do you have the presentation, please? Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to share this information. This is a project that has been going on for quite some time, and fortunately now, through the efforts of people like Grant and the rest of the board for the WWMD, they're prepared to now, as we're doing today, request consideration. Now, I will say that first and foremost, I need to apologize on behalf of the chairman of the district, Tom Rachowski, who is out of town right now, so unfortunately he could not be here. And Luc Francois, who is also on the board as the treasurer, the superintendent of Waterford High School, he too is out of town. So fortunately, you get the A team with Grant and you get the B team with me. So we're going to do our best to get through this and make sure we share the correct information. I would share with you that the first thing I wanted to offer is that part of the reason that I was being requested to participate in this is that, one, it is the district, my district, but two, I was also on the board for the Waterford Waterway Management District for a number of years. However, a little over a year ago, as a result of some personal situations, which most of you are aware of, I had stepped down from the board. And so therefore, I am no longer on the board of directors for the Waterford Waterway District. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that, that while I have an interest for both the residents of the district and others, I just wanted everyone to know that I am not currently a board member for the district. If we could go, perfect, John, thank you. No, I'm not going to go through all of this language. You've most have had a chance to take a look at this. I'd like to just highlight some bullet points on my end before I turn this over to Grant for his discussions. As you can tell, this is a collaborative effort. This is not just something the district is doing. We're doing it with the town of Waterford, the village of Waterford. We're doing it with the DNR. And obviously, we're looking to also do this with Racine County. You can see what our shared interests are, the partnership opportunities, the continuity, the value that we're bringing to this, all has to do with the entire county. Next one, please, John. Thank you. As everyone is aware, there was a fund that was established as a result of the Monsanto settlement. And our request, and we like to put it right out there so everybody understands what it is we're looking for. The district is looking for consideration for $1 million, which would virtually be the remainder of the settlement after the amount had initially been given to Browns Lake. I think when you take a look at this, you'll see that everything we have addressed will hopefully address your questions, although every time that happens, there's always going to be some additional questions. You can see that we're talking about moving 350 to 400,000 cubic yards of sediment. You'll hear in a few moments from Grant that we have locations for this. I will tell you that this project is something that is, yes, it is about soil removal from the water. However, it is also about water restoration. The water that we have in our area is good. We want to keep it that way. In a moment, you're about to hear the depth of our situation on the 1,100 acres that we have. And that is going to show you that there's reason for concerns that we're watching very closely right now, too, and including there was a fish kill that happened last year that we wanted to make sure, and we immediately tested it, we being the district, immediately tested the water. The water was fine. It proved to be an issue regarding the temperature and the depth of the water in the area that it happened. So again, a strong reason why we're trying to move this forward. If you are not aware, which I'm pretty sure most of you are, the district entails 1,100 acres. It involves the Fox River, which flows down through the middle of it. It includes roughly 13 bays, and it also includes Tishigan Lake. So it's a dynamic waterway as a result of the water flow of the river and also the locations of the various bays and of course the lake itself. I will tell you, we have public access for all. You have two public access locations one's in the village, one is actually an operated DNR launch. And we also have a marina where there's a launch as well. All of this is available to the general public. And I would say that one of the statistics I looked into was that our district actually entails 5 miles of the Fox River. And the 5 miles of the Fox River is let's put it this way. All of the Fox River in Racine County is 20 miles. So it is 25% of the waterway that goes through the county of Racine, which is something that is important for us because it's also, we're at the north end. So what comes from us gets sent down to the southern end. So there is benefit that will be had by those residents of Burlington, Rochester, and some of the other locations as well. Yeah, next one, John, thank you. The recreation component is obvious, but I like to highlight that it's also assisted the tourism within Racine County. I don't know if you're familiar with John Gillespie, but he's an avid fisherman that obviously does his own television show. We were featured in an hour-long special just about 2 years ago because of the quality of the fishing that's been done or that's available in the river, the bays, and in the lake. I can also tell you that I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but we have an avid kayaking community out by us. We actually have a group that's called the Michigan Lake Yackers. They were featured on TMJ4 in a special as a result of their involvement with the community and making sure that they could be a part of everything they're doing. The district is active in obviously taking care of vegetation management. I think it's important to also point that the district is also funding fish stocking, fish cribs, things that'll enhance that environment. The way we manage the actual vegetation component for safety, because there've been some challenges with the vegetation issue, which many of you may or may not be aware of. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Horn, as in Grant Horn. Sorry, that's the last time. I promised that last time. To be able to talk a little bit about the project and exactly what it is we're looking to accomplish. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Greg. My name is Grant Horn. I am the chair of the Ecosystem Restoration Committee. Some call it the Dredging Committee. And I've been in this role since 2020, which is when I took over what was a project that had been attempted for years and realized that the scale of that project was too large and the work that was being done was not realistic. And we scaled this project down to make it more reasonable, make it with a mission to not only clean up our waterway, but to give our owners and people who use the waterway access now and for the long term. This past, at the end of the year, we hired on Baxter and Woodman, a reputable engineering firm who also now has ground or roots, an office in Waterford proper. And they began working on design drawings that are necessary for permitting. So when you go for a dredging permit, there's a set of construction documents just like you would have for building a building. And so Baxter Woodman is currently working on those as we speak. In April, Baxter Woodman will be collecting sediment samples also required for permitting. So going through and taking samples from the sediment underneath the water in the various locations to find out what is exactly in there. We do have information from years past, but that data is expired and we will need new information. So as Greg alluded to, and it says up here, this fish spawning, we had thousands of fish just died last year in 2025 as a result of shallow water, warm temperatures, and lack of oxygen. That comes from the eutrophic conditions caused by heavy phosphorus-rich sediment. And so in addition to safety issues, we're also talking about environmental issues. And from a perspective as a vacation rental owner with a couple of vacation rentals on the property myself, certainly when people come to my properties, I don't want them looking at a bunch of belly up fish in the waterway. And there are a great deal of vacation rentals in this waterway. Next slide, please, John. So if we look at the waterway, there are 1,000 properties give or take, 5,000 people that are living on this waterway. Of those 1,000 properties, approximately 600, they're at the end of their pier or their dock. The water is less than 2 feet deep. Many years ago, I'll talk about it in a little bit, but that was not the case. I'll talk about why that was not the case. People could recreate in all of the bays. There were water ski courses. My neighbor would tell me that Bob Euchre would water ski right in the bay past my house. That is not possible anymore. And I'm going to talk about why, not just from a having fun purpose, that's important. Next slide, please. So the invasive weed growth is fueled by that sediment full of phosphorus. That phosphorus is what invasive weeds need to grow. You'll find if you've got a nice solid bottom and there is no soft muck, there is no invasive weeds. As those weeds die, they decay, but they don't decay fully because the water is not deep enough and there's not enough oxygen. They form more muck and more sediment, causing each year for the river to get, for the water to get shallower and shallower. The WWMD over the years before my time has done much to make sure that sediment is not leaching in, running off from people's shorelines, running in from other pollutant sources. So we've taken care of those problems. Our problem now lies within the water itself. When this happens, it also affects the navigation paths. And I don't just mean people are hitting their motors on the bottom or that. People avoid areas where it's shallower. And now you've got boats that are moving in very close proximity to each other. If you've ever been on the Fox River, it's not that wide of a river. And there are people water skiing up and down and boats going the other way and boats passing the other way. As that water gets shallow and shallower, it constrains and restricts, and it becomes a serious hazard and potential risk to those in boats or water skis or tubes or otherwise. Portions of our waterway have been, in addition to this habitat degradation, the raising up of the water and the limiting of it, some of this sediment has reached all the way to the surface, and there are large portions. If you look out, Greg didn't mention this, but if you look out Greg's from his house, there are portions of the water that were land that are now land that were 2 years ago, were maybe 5 years ago, were beautiful clear water for almost as far as the eye could see. As we lose that water, there is no more place for the fish to go at that point. And as we lose it, it becomes land and it cannot be restored to water per the DNR regulations. We want to stop that from happening. Next slide, please, John. So what are we going to do about it? As the Waterford Waterway Management District, I took on this path in 2020 as a volunteer, and we just more recently in the past year landed on the method of drawing down the river rather than typical hydraulic or top of water resolutions. I actually was given the idea, attended a dredging conference, and both our engineer and the DNR said, Grant, why don't you just draw it down? It's, it's so much less expensive to do it by that method. So we plan to draw the river down 5 feet from its current ordinary high water mark. At that point, it will expose all of our problem areas and it'll be a dry river / lake bed bottom. After that drying period, which would be about a month, and then about another month of freezing, we will take heavy equipment, bulldozers, excavators, dump trucks, and move them out into the waterway and extract the sediment in the most economical way possible. Estimates figure that it's about half the cost of doing it in a traditional method, which also bodes well for our landowners who are going to take on the burden, the majority of that burden. Next slide, please, John. I personally took the DNR agent, the water regulation specialist who is in charge of dredging out on the waterway in a kayak this past year to show them exactly the problems that we're incurring. It's one thing to hear about it like you are now. It's another thing to paddle through it and touch the water and have your paddle hit the bottom as you're going through. After we were done with our paddle, she agreed that she will help us within the regulations of what the DNR is capable of doing to make this project happen. We, as you can see there, we recently submitted in January the NR 347.05 application to the DNR. And we will be submitting those sediment samples to go along with that in April. It's hard to take the samples when the ice is on the water. So we are encouraged with the response we've received from the DNR, as well as to the method that there was originally some, maybe some questions about it, but they're now favorable to this method. Next slide, please, John. So Baxter and Woodman, as I said, is contracted, and they are working on the design drawings right now. I talked about the sediment samples that they'll be taking here in April, but most importantly, they are working on the remediation portion of the sediment. For those of you who haven't seen the 792-page report that I have of sediments from 2013, we have some dirty words in there like DDT and arsenic, and it's not quite as dirty a word, but phosphorus and nitrates are a big the promoter of the invasive weeds that we've got in the waterway. For those of you who are familiar with wastewater treatment plants and the DNR, they are working right now to reduce the total maximum daily load of phosphorus allowed from the treatment plants for these types of reasons. This project will in effect remove literally millions of pounds of phosphorus from the waterway. And that's a very good thing. So while we are working on this, I've worked on this for years, but we have two major sites where this sediment will go. These are landowners and farmers who are willing to work with us to take the sediment. Those same phosphates that are bad for growing weeds in the water, or are good for growing weeds in the water, are also great for growing alfalfa, corn, and soybeans, are major crops that we grow here in Racine County. And the two sites are chosen because of their proximity to the waterway. Access is easy. We don't have to spend, my last plan had $1.5 million in trucking down to south of Highway 20, but these sites are adjacent to the waterway, and they're over 60 acres each, and both owners are willing to work with us, as well as the village would like to take sediment to fill a quarry, an old quarry on their property. Next slide, please, John. So Greg told you about that big $1 million number. An even bigger number is the $6 million total cost that we're looking at for this project. The citizens of Waterford, the riparians on the waterway, are ready to take on that cost. I personally went door to door and arranged groups. It got kind of tiring going to door when I was going to over 400 different properties. So neighbors started getting together groups for me, and they'd bring over a cooler of beer, and when we got done, we'd have a beer. But 88% of the people of the properties and people that I met with all signed on, and I have their signatures here saying they would pay up to $700 per year towards the cost of dredging. So those owners like Greg and myself will bear the brunt of that. We will seek other sources as well, but we certainly, $1 million would go a long way in helping out not only everyone who lives on the waterway, but people who utilize the Fox River and the Tishkin Lake impoundment. Last slide for me before I kick it back to Greg. This is our schedule. We're currently wrapping up Q1 right here and moving into Q2. if anybody can't read that, let me know, but it just talks about the field data and gathering of information such as the sediment samples. And then phase 2, which we are starting right now, is working on those design drawings that are necessary for permitting. With that, I will give it back to Mr. Greg Horth.
Thank you, Grant. This clearly, Jonathan, I'm sorry, we could put, thank you. As we previously mentioned, and as you just heard Grant talk, this is absolutely a collaborative effort. This is not one-dimensional. It's not being done by one group. We have had now 4 meetings with the leadership of the town, the village, myself, the chairman of the WWMD, and also the other county board supervisor, Troy McReynolds, who of course has the majority of the village area of Waterford. And the reason for that meeting was to ensure that this wasn't just a WWMD project, but it's being shared across the board and across the communities. They have already stepped up when it comes to equipment, when it comes to manpower. Right now, the police patrol that's out on the water is being paid for by the town of Waterford and or their subsidy to the village. They also take care of some of the equipment that's in the water, such as the buoys, such as lighting and so on. So that piece has already been put into play to continue moving it forward. As we said, multi-jurisdictional, well, again, that's where we're also hoping that the county will help support this part of the process as well with this funding. Because as you can see, as they say, that the horse is out of the gate right now, and we're trying to move this forward. Jonathan, if you could, the next one, please. I don't know that I need to read all of these items. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, the reasons behind the additional funding support. But suffice it to say that with a $6 million project, as Grant just shared, almost $5 million of it, roughly, is going to be actually the burden of the owners that live around the property or around the waterway. And as you heard, they've been made aware, although some of them don't always listen, I'm sure, but they have been communicated to. And keep in mind, this is a topic of every monthly meeting that the WWMD has. They do monthly meetings. They're not required to by the statute. They're required to only do meetings twice a year. However, our organization has always done it every month so that we can keep this information flow going and so people are kept informed. So with that having been said, I'll go to the next slide, please, which is self-explanatory and admittedly a little redundant. We just wanted to make sure there wasn't any confusion as to what the request was here. So we shared this again in this regard. At the end of the day, environmental health, recreation, the values of the properties. We have already had real estate agents tell us that because of some of the challenges of the depth of our water, we should expect to begin the process of seeing it impact real estate costs. And it's not hard to tell. I mean, I remember this 3 years ago. I had an individual give me a call and she said, Greg, it was my own fault. We bought the property, but I didn't realize that at the end of my dock, I only have 12 inches of water. She says, I cannot put the boat down. Otherwise it just literally, the motor goes right into the muck. And I said, Lisa, I have to tell you, I'm really upset about it that you're having to experience it. She admitted, it's my fault, she said. I should have asked more questions and looked into it, but that's the kind of scenario that we are dealing with in real time. This is not something that's going to happen 3, 5, 10 years from now. With that having been said, both Grant and I are prepared to answer any questions and offer any additional information. Obviously, we would like to see this move forward. We understand that this is for informational this evening, respect that, and want to take away whatever we can do to enhance this information to obviously further develop a favorable decision in this regard. So please,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, GH and GH.
perfect.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the committee for comments. Supervisor Wish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A two-part question. Where is the water going and how are you replacing it? You're drawing down the water, it's going, where is it going? And then where are you getting it back from?
So the county operates the dam at the south end of the waterway. This will be a process that will be about a 6-inch drawdown per day. And that will take course, so 6 inches, we're talking about 10 days to draw it down. And that will be an almost unnoticeable amount downstream to Rochester and Burlington. And it's something that has been done before. When the dam was broken, we had to do the same thing. And it does not negatively affect the people below.
And then how are you replacing the water?
This reverse process. So this would take place, and I think I failed to mention that October 15th is the time frame where the river will be drawn down. And then sometime in April, the reverse process will happen where the dam closes, less water is going through, and the water level is slowly returned back to its normal level about 7 months later.
So hypothetically, you're pulling less water out, which when you add it back in, there's going to be more water to fill the space that now you've created, correct? If you're dredging that all out,
Yes, there will be more water to fill that in. Yes.
there's going to be sufficient water to bring the water level back up to where,
We have 11 million gallons per day that come through the Fox River, coming from all the way up in Waukesha. And actually, Greg was part of a long process of monitoring that when Waukesha did the diversion where they started, you're familiar with that. Greg was monitoring that daily to make sure that wasn't going to affect us and that we would not have enough water. It actually turned out to be quite the opposite. We had more water after they diverted the water to Lake Michigan than before. So that is not a concern or has not become a concern yet, especially, I haven't heard that from our engineers.
then what happens if there's overflow in the timeframe that you're now dredging where there's no water and an overflow of water that might get in unintentionally?
That is something that we have engineers for, and they've talked about having to build potentially coffer dams to protect mostly the equipment that would be in the waterway. Me as a non-engineer, I said, well, let's just get the equipment out of there every night, but I'm not an engineer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Supervisor Shakur.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for a fine presentation and informative. My question is now, as it was mentioned about being in collaboration. Now, this is the town and the village,
Correct.
and you're asking for the county's help, right?
Mhm.
Is that county's help is that due to the Monsanto funds? Okay. Now, will this be billed to the residents around the area, or is this a volunteer situation?
We are a district that, based on our statute, is permitted to charge to the tax bill, based on approval on the part of the riparian owners, if you will. And so we can actually put the charge directly on, I say can, that's what we would do right now. Apology, let me step back a moment. Right now, every individual that is a riparian owner currently pays $375 a year as a part of being in the water district. That money goes towards the operation of the district. That would be the equipment that we've purchased. That would be the supplies. That would be the labor. That would be all of the responsibilities to maintain the waterway. With this project, what would happen is we would put that additional charge onto the tax bill, which actually is, of course, generated by Racine County. So we'd put that on the tax bill as a part of moving forward. And of course, they would know all this in advance, which is part of the approval process.
Now, you are working with the DNR, of course.
The
And have you-
DNR has been, by the way, the DNR gets a bad rap for a lot of things, okay? I would tell you that the people that we have worked with and our relationship with them has been outstanding. And they have been supportive, they have been proactive, they have been educational as we've gone through this exercise for the past several years even, and as we operate day to day. In fact, one of the things that we probably could have or should have put in here is that we have a responsibility to also operate under a lake management plan. And the lake management plan gets generated every 5 years. We are right now in the process. In fact, I think we've just submitted, the district has the updated version of that lake management plan, which also addresses all of the discussions regarding quality of water and obviously vegetation issues, the fish environment, and so on. So that's another part of the relationship, because that's actual funding that we have been able to get from the DNR for purposes of generating the lake management plan. Not all of it, but a good portion of it. So I think that helps explain a little bit about the relationship we have and how aggressive we work with them to do the right thing.
Okay, last question. Now, I don't want to think, I want to be sure. Who takes care of the safety? Is that the sheriff's department or is that done by the
The,
town and the village?
the water patrol for this waterway is handled by the town of Waterford's police department.
Okay,
And they have, by the way, they have their own boat, they have their own, and they have responsibilities for the buoys and the lighting and what have you. We have even helped with that in the past when it comes to the actual equipment that they have. Once again, that collaborative approach to make sure that we're all supportive of each other.
thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Caprillion?
Thank you. This has been quite interesting. I'm a little bit versed on this, so I have some questions. The first one, maybe the easiest one, is you talked about those two neighboring farms that were willing to take a lot of this sediment. And I'm just wondering, have you reviewed or have they proposed like their nutrient management plan, just so the runoff doesn't go right back into the water?
So that is I would say the most difficult part of all the dredging. Getting a permit to just remove sediment from a waterway is easy. Going somewhere with the sediment and what's inside that sediment is the hardest part. The one supervisor, Melissa, one of the new things that we found from the DNR is that because of the method we're using, um, some of those nutrients will be lessened because of because there won't be so much water in the sediment. It won't be leaching out and going back. So, if you're familiar with Browns Lake, they're pumping it probably 75% water, 25% sediment, and that sediment has to de-water. We're already going to be primarily de-watered. And so there are things that called flocculants and polymers that the engineers will use as part of their plan to capture those unwanted, undesirable things. And the farmers also, they're not just taking it they're not just going to take my word for it that this stuff is good stuff. They will share the reports with them. And they have to be satisfied that the levels of nutrients are where they want them to be. Farmers don't they know exactly what their field is, what the pH level is in their fields, and they know exactly how much nitrates they need to add to those things. And if I give them too much, it can actually harm their crops.
Yeah, the one thing that being in this position has afforded me, I was able to do like a day-long ride out on a combine, out on a field that we're doing some work on. So it's not so much that, the farmers are very well versed, and I mean, they're scientists, quite honestly. It's just what is happening to the mitigation about them being able to control the runoff. So even if the water has been extracted, the environment is now going to put some more water in. And if their land hasn't taken any efforts to be able to help mitigate that runoff, it's just going to run right back off into the water source because that's where gravity pulls it. And I'm assuming that's just where the watershed, it's all part of it. But I will trust you that you guys have researched that. So it's not so much them knowing the numbers of um, components that are coming into their soil, but it's really the management plan. So I just want to expand it. You mentioned about the report that was flagging DDTs, arsenic, and phosphorus and nitrates. So not only the land, all those chemicals tell me this isn't a natural occurrence. This is man-made. This is from, the properties that are surrounding that area. So I'm just curious, what other efforts, because it sounds like you dredge all this, you remove it. The problem is the people. And so what efforts is happening with the education, or you're just basically resetting the clock and this is going to happen again? So what's happening with the education around this area?
The arsenic can be naturally occurring, and it's actually not terrible, but you can't take it and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
The DDTs is a very small portion. But in the 80s, about the time I was born, the Waterford went away from dumping raw sewage direct. I still have pipes in some of my properties where you can see they went straight down to the sewage pipes went to the water. So in the 80s, they went away from that. And I'm told that when we dredge, we're going to find all kinds of old things, bathtubs and bicycles and what have you. But one of the components of that we're working with Baxter and Woodman on is an education process and communication to riparian owners. Part of it is making sure that they realize when we draw this down, it's not a free for all for you to go out there and start removing whatever you want out of it. I didn't mention that we are going to utilize this to remove obstacles in the waterway that we just can't get to from above the water. That are giant stumps and giant rocks, that kind of thing. But the communications with we're spending up over $22,000 on communications, marketing, specifically with Baxter and Woodman to reach out to our owners and people on the waterway to inform them and work with them.
Supervisor, the other item is that, to that question, is that you have a couple of different components to it. Obviously, we've been talking about the potential impact of the farmland and what have you. But we also understand clearly that the residential community is almost an equal part to that because of the pesticides and the fertilizers and what they're putting on their lawns. And that's why I know the district established this as a part of the communication with the ownership to let them know exactly, hey, we can do this once, but you're not going to want to do this again in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And so that plus the fact that I also have the opportunity to be on the Land and Water Conservation Group. And we have been working very hard also on this topic, obviously with cover crops, being able to deal with the issues that the farmers have to deal with. And it's been a great education on one hand, but I can tell you right now that two of our largest farmers in the Waterford area, be it Frost Farms and Ranke's, are very active when it comes to treating the soil in a manner that will be most productive for both parties.
No, thank you for that. And that's really what I was driving at just right there, because this definitely is a land use problem.
Right.
So I understand that arsenic can be in the soil. I've traveled the globe and there's certain places I can't eat their food there because their bodies are more susceptible to higher levels of arsenic. I probably would have croaked, but another thing is, and this is more about, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but that those um, funds in which you are requesting from us, and I don't know, maybe you're well versed on this because that's where you're asking them to come from. but the availability of those funds and if there's anyone else vying for those same dollars, right? So, and then what is the criteria in which, I don't know if the county board set this, I can't quite remember, on how we can use those Monsoto funds.
I'm probably very well versed in it.
Okay.
However, would you like to offer any initial? We actually wanted to make sure we were prepared. So I had reached out to Council Lansdorf for his input on this as well to make sure it was properly covered. So, okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I can offer just a little bit of the background about the Monsanto funds, the intended use for those, prior use authorized by the board. And really at the outset, I'll just state that ultimately the consideration of the request, any sort of action on the request, it's a policy decision. It's not a legal decision. By way of background, the county received just north of $2 million in funding from this Monsanto fund. Monsanto, this was a class action lawsuit, not dissimilar from what you often get in the mail. We didn't have to opt in, you just decide not to opt out. So we never opted out of this. And as a result of the settlement agreement, we received a payment in just north of $2 million. By resolution in 2024, the board authorized expenditure of $1.1 million for a similar project in Browns Lake. In terms of requirements or constraints on use of this, this is not like ARPA. This is not like the opioid class action lawsuits where there is a auditing component. There's not a required use for this. There is intended use, and that's to address contamination in waterways. And so our general counsel from our office, more as a risk manager for the county, is again, because it's not a legal issue, we're not legally bound to spend this on certain things, but there's an intention. And so as the risk manager for the county, we've generally cautioned to be careful in the event that there's future regulations that come down either at a state or federal level requiring that municipalities or counties test for PFAS or other contamination type issues, that in the event of something like that, having some resources that were for that specific purpose, it would be a prudent fiscal practice. And so that's been the general counsel, but ultimately the use of the funds is a policy decision for the county board to consider. And the uses that were described in terms of addressing sediments and phosphorus, it's not out of line with what those intended purposes were for the class action.
And if I could just add one item to it, because there was a second part to your question, and that was, are there any others that have requested consideration or what have you? It is my understanding that the answer to that question is no. There has not been any other requests that have come forward. It is obviously for purposes of working with waterways within Racine County. So that scope is obviously defined. And so this funding has now been, I say available, has been, was appropriated, let's call it 3 years ago, 4 years ago. 24. And so at this point, we're now 2 years into that. And obviously we're aware that another facility was given consideration for this and utilized it. And they just beat us to it, to be perfectly honest, because this is not a project that is brand new. We would have liked to have been here sooner, but unfortunately we didn't have the right information that we have now and feel much more comfortable in being able to present it in the way we have.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, 2024, that's when the board authorized the $1.1 million
That's what I thought.
allocation. The actual disbursement of funds, John, was, I'm looking at John Sturtevant, I think it was a year or so just before that.
Yeah. So that would be 23. So we're over 3 years then, basically.
And I should add that the amount we requested, 1 million, leaves $100,000 in the fund for future use if something does come up, as he mentioned about the PFAS testing or something unknown.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a statement, not a question, so it shouldn't take just but a second. I would, maybe what's missing, I know you have to give us the highlights and not all the granular pieces of it, but, I'm hoping with this project that there is like a post-dreading rate projection that you're doing, just so you can monitor whether land use practices are improving or worsening, through this, because that's a lot of money you're throwing at it. And if it's just gonna
Wash away.
wash away, exactly.
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to deal a little bit with the numbers. With county's participation, you have 5 million left to pay for the project. And did you say there were 400 taxable properties?
600.
1,000.
1,000.
1,000, okay.
600 on the water.
1,000 on the water.
It's
Six-
one, go ahead.
I call them directly affected and indirectly affected.
Right.
This project will benefit the entire waterway and everyone who uses it, but there are people who will benefit more than others because it is out in front of their property, in front of their property. 600 directly affected. There will be 2 tiers of invoicing, I guess.
Yeah,
Both $700
Yeah.
or no?
The answer to the question is there are 1,000 properties that are directly on the water.
Mhm.
There are roughly 600 properties that currently sit in less than 2.5 feet of water of those 1,000. So we're discerning the difference because obviously there are some people that live on the lake and they might have 20, 30 feet of depth in front of their place, but this really is affecting the river and all the bays and some of the borderline areas around Michigan Lake.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
So what are you anticipating with your taxing authority? What are you anticipating collecting the first year after this is implemented?
Go ahead.
For those that I call indirectly affected, those will be somewhere in the range of $200 per year. Those that are in the directly affected will probably be more like around $400 per year.
So what is your total income then with that formula for the first year?
For the total for the first year, I'm not sure what that comes out to.
I'm
But
just trying to figure out how, you're gonna have to borrow for this.
yes,
So there's gonna be, I mean, this could be a 20 or more year tax for your taxpayers.
Mhm.
And they're aware of that?
yes.
Or are they gonna rise up and throw you out of your positions?
We had originally taken a look, again, you heard Grant talk about a $700 number. That was originally what the number was. And when we did the math, the $700 number on 1,000 properties, and if you did that on an annualized basis, you basically would be covering $5 million inside of, give or take, 7 years. We know that there's going to be some offset to that once we go through the borrowing. By the way, we've already been in touch with local banks as well that are interested in being a part of funding this project, in part because we're doing it in our backyard. All right, they actually are a bank that's located in Waterford. And so that's part of that whole collaboration component that I was sharing earlier. So Supervisor, when you look at the actual total dollar amounts, that's how you start to get to the 5 million.
Mhm.
However, there still needs to be some fine tuning on how that's going to ultimately look, because candidly, this project we need to move forward with, as you can tell. So whether it ends up being 5 million or frankly, God forbid that the county isn't able to support this decision or request, then it's going to have to be more than that. And so the more is going to have to be charged on, one, the residents, or two, the town and the village have both shown interest and also participating. Now, we don't have a number from them yet, but they have been a part of the conversation because they understand. Last time we checked, the name out front is Waterford. And they don't want it to become anything other than Waterford. Yeah, muck land.
Well, I definitely commend you for reaching out to residents and, presenting possible increased taxes, but
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical on reception of such a big bill. And I don't know where that leaves you in terms of your ability to complete the deal. That's just a question.
Understand.
Director Zimmer?
I just wanted to provide some context from earlier conversation. Monsanto funds were received in 2023, and the first payment made to the Burlington dredging project was in 2024. We have received requests from another project from the city of Burlington for Echo Lake that has not come to fruition yet. They don't have the project plan. They're not as far in it as possible, but they are asking for $700,000. Of the principal amount we received from the settlement, 900,000 is remaining and 200,000 is been interest earned since we received it in 2023. So there is 1.1 million left, and it earns about 3,100 of interest every month.
Thank you.
Director, correct me if I'm wrong, though. The Echo Lake was an initial request, absolutely, but then I understand that had been pulled off the table simply because they weren't sure if it was going to be having to do with the water or the dam work the dam repairs, excuse me, that needed to be done. So I understood that had been pulled off. And so, yes, it was initially in the conversations, but since then, subsequently, it had been turned away.
Yeah, I don't want to speak on behalf of the county executive, but he did receive a request in March of 2025 for that project, and the public works director asked for more information. He did receive some project plans from it and advised the county executive that it wasn't complete enough to make a recommendation to move forward. I don't know more about the water or the dam or anything like that.
Fair enough.
Supervisor Wish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have any more questions until just now. Supervisor Miller brings up a good point, and I know that you've gone door to door and spoken to 400 some residents or whatever. Do you have any of that documented, or you have agreements from people?
Yes, signatures of
Okay.
all these individuals on sites that I hereby certify. I'll just cut to the chase here. At a project, at a cost of me not less than $700 per year for the next 10 years.
Okay, so does that answer your question, Supervisor Miller? Part of it?
That's,
Okay. Second thing is, what's the reporting? If we approve this, is it through you, Gwen, that we get a report from them on where they're at?
Let me look at the agreement that we had with Burlington to see what the reporting requirements are in there. So give me just a moment to look at that.
Yeah, because if we're gonna outlay, I mean, I would definitely be one that would be interested in getting reports on the procedure, how it's going, where you're at. On a
Excellent.
regular basis.
By the way, that we would welcome that opportunity, but I have to ask it. Has Browns Lake been submitting a report or documentation?
Don't know.
Because that would be, we'd want to follow something that was already established as a logical pattern. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for a fine presentation. Many questions have been asked, of which I checked off on my list. Thank you. I kind of feel this is a worthwhile project. You have put so many hours in. I mean, this is worthwhile for recreation, for the water environment, just for the businesses, for everything up and down the river, and for those communities that are concerned about this. From Waterford of the town to the village, to Rochester, to the county, just to name a couple of them. I'm curious. I would like to see a couple of reports from the DNR. I know you've been working with the DNR to expound on some of the issues that Supervisor Caprillion brought up and that you had brought up about what was some of the contaminants that are found in the river. I'm also concerned about once it's done and dredged, should this go through, what restrictions may or may not be put on those that live on the river through some type of ordinances that could be enacted, okay? Not fertilizing their lawns, which many people that live on lakes seem to do, Okay, but these are things that I would really be concerned about, and then you're not polluting the river again. And can this be done? Yes, I know it's done in other communities up in northern Wisconsin. I'm quite certain the community that I have lake property on, we have that in our, you can't fertilize your front lawn. So I'd be curious to see if that can also be part of the agreement. I'd also, like Supervisor Miller said, like to see a breakdown of, the 5 million. And what, that you've talked to the town and the villages of Waterford and what their agreements may or may not be. Some type of breakdown of the financial 5 million part of it, okay? I think that's it for now. Any other questions? This was for information only. I'm sorry, Supervisor Shakur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, I don't want to be guessing and I don't want to assume, but I don't know for sure. Is Browns Lake and Root River connected to this river?
To the Fox,
Yeah,
it runs very close by, but it's not.
They're not connected.
okay. All right. The reason why I was asking is that I just want to make sure that Browns Lake or Root River is not, after this is all cleaned up and dredged, then more stuff is coming in from them.
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, if I can add, the Browns Lake
Sure.
agreement does require a written report by the end of 2025, and I'll follow up on the status of that. We'll get that over to the county executive and to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is for information only. We will be talking about another come in front of the FHR committee meeting
Like
with
at 7?
some of the detailed information. Huh?
Like at 7 o'clock tonight?
Yeah, if you want to sit back and wait for the balance of the meeting. No, we will take this up at another FHR committee meeting for a first reading when some of the details, some of the questions have been answered that were addressed to you tonight. So
By the way,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present it and obviously the insightful questions as well. So very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
And hope we didn't take too much time.
No. Yeah. Okay, I have up next the county treasurer, Jeff Lattis. Bid offers for several in REM properties through Racine County Treasurer sealed bids, action of this committee only. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. We recently presented a subsequent sealed bid sale for parcels that we had previously presented in sealed bid sales and not been successful in selling. We've overall done a great job of liquidating those properties. We just had a handful that were probably overpriced from the original appraisals. So we presented 4 properties for sale in the subsequent sealed bid sale. Sealed bid sale ran from January 27th until February 24th. We received bids on 3 of the 4 parcels. And if you will, I'll just kind of go through the 3 parcels that we received bids on and make my recommendations. We received 2 bids on 1336 11th Street. It's a vacant lot, residential lot on 11th Street, just off of Washington. We received 2 bids with the highest bid of $2,210 and recommending that one for approval. Also in the city of Racine, we received 3 bids for a vacant church on 1330 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Highest bid on that one was $53,000, recommending that one for approval. And lastly, we received 2 bids on 1321 11th Street, which is a vacant lot parcel in the city of Racine. This one is a very narrow strip of land that just runs right across, right along the street. It's directly adjacent to 2 parcels that Habitat for Humanity had purchased from our sealed bid sale previously. And we received 2 bids on that one. One bid for $100 and one bid for $115. I am recommending approval of the $100 bid, which is the second highest bid. And the reasoning for that recommendation is because it is from Habitat for Humanity, and their intent would be to combine this with the two adjacent parcels that they already have so that they can do new construction on the large lot. And long-term best use, I believe that that's going to be the best use for that narrow parcel. The bid that we received for $115, which was the highest bid, it was from an out-of-state bidder who did not give us any specific description as to what their intended use for the parcel would be.
Supervisor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was a little intrigued by the intended use for the former church. Did you have any more background on what spiritual learning and clean and sober living would mean?
That bid came in from a taxpayer that I've had long-term contact with. He actually has gone through, he's had parcels that have been delinquent with us, and I've worked with him over the last 5 years and getting completely caught up. So he's done a great recovery process with regard to that. He, self-proclaims has a troubled past, and he wants to do good for the community. So his intent would be to make that space available for people that are coming out of transitional housing or potentially being released from jail, and give them a productive place to collectively, basically come in and just arrange in that space and find productive things to do.
Thank you. And I do agree with your rationale on the smallest one. Certainly, people who have an interest right next door should have priority, especially if the dollar amount is so minimal. So I would move to accept the recommendations of the treasurer on these three properties.
Second.
We got first and second. Any additional discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Supervisor Spencer?
I just want to see if either or both of the two bidders for the third property are in the room.
Negative.
And to address that point, Supervisor Spencer, when we do a sealed bid sale, we do essentially broadcast out to anybody that submitted bids. We give them a copy of the recommendations that are going to be coming forward to Finance Committee, and we give them the dates of the meeting. So we want to make sure that they're available if they want to speak.
I was just checking.
Thank you. Okay. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor? Any noes? Hearing none, these three properties are approved by this committee. Next up, offer from the Village of Mount Pleasant to purchase 2 county-owned properties on Glen Eagle Drive. Could you just expound on that for us?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So these two parcels are vacant lot parcels that were taken in foreclosure, property tax foreclosure in August of this year. They are landlocked parcels, and I did provide a map of the parcel area. They're essentially landlocked parcels between Highway 20 and 16th Street, right off of Meadow Lane Avenue. And the village is interested in securing these parcels so that they can combine them with the adjacent parcels behind them to do a larger single-family development. And the parcels were put out for appraisal. The combined appraised value of the parcels came in at $7,000, and the bid offer that was put forward by the Village of Mount Pleasant was for $12,000. I will be recommending these for approval. However, I do believe that this is going to require a resolution, so I'm going to have to bring this back in front of the committee at a future date.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Miller?
so this is a rare, if perhaps first time, and I'm asked, we have 2 lawyers here tonight, but the agenda lists action of the committee only. And I remember Dennis Cornwell always warned us about practicing law without a license. But if we recommended this for first reading, that would be a more restrictive action, would it not? And would it be permissible under the spirit of the open meetings law and the listing of the agenda?
I can't speak to the more restrictive, but my understanding is that when we, John, you might. asking Principal Assistant Corporation Counsel John Sturtevant, who tends to deal more directly with these matters, just to weigh in as well. So I can't speak Supervisor Miller. I'm not sure if I was tracking the more restrictive action, but
Well, if it was action of the committee only, we could do it right now. But if we send it for first reading, that is much more restrictive in that there are two more steps, namely county board first reading, county board second reading.
I think I track now. My understanding, though, is that this type of practice is something that was by resolution. And so it would be, yes, under the agenda right now, it contemplates only action of the committee, but in past practice, action of the committee would not be sufficient for the action that's being contemplated here of conveying it to the municipality.
And
John, do you have any additional thoughts?
Go ahead.
I agree.
And I would like to have this brought up at the April, is it April 1st? We're going to have a meeting prior to the April 1st, okay. We would bring this up for first and second reading at that meeting because we're discussing right now.
Okay, I'm just trying to expedite things.
Yeah, and that should expedite it. Okay.
Oh,
I do have a question on that, though. Aren't these the same properties that they came to us
Yes.
before?
Yes.
They are, yes, I presented these about 6 weeks ago and we were in a very similar situation.
I can't remember what we did.
The committee voted for approval, but in further communication with the corporation council, became clear that it required resolution and not just committee vote.
So that's why they're back.
Okay, so they're back and, all right.
That's why they're back. Okay, and then the next Supervisor Shakur, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a question here. Maybe you can clear this up here. I'm flipping back and forth. I normally like paper, but I'm trying to, this property at 1330 Martin Luther King Drive,
Yes,
that's not the church, is it?
it is the church.
Okay, so this gentleman is in California? He's got an address in
No. That's a different property, sir.
the church is what? What address?
1330 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive.
Well, then I must have wrote it down wrong here, but. Okay.
And the highest bidder is a local property owner. If that's what you're inquiring about.
It's 153,000.
Yeah. Okay. It's cost here's 25. The appraised values.
Yeah, this is his offer
Oh,
is much less.
oh, that's not accepted. Right. Okay. Got my hero here to help me out. Thank you.
Next up, we have offer from the City of Racine Community Development Authority to purchase county-owned in-rem properties at 1229 6th Street and 1230 6th Street. Again, this is one on the agenda that shows action only, but this has to have a resolution. But since we have
Jeff Hintz.
Jeff Hintz here from the city, we're gonna let Jeff talk about it. And Jeff Lattis
Sounds
talk
good.
about it.
I'm just I brought additional pictures of the property so you could get a better feel for what the property currently looks like. And I'm just gonna pass those out real quick.
Mr. Chairman, I'm on this expedite agenda, or if the chair and the committee would be so open, could we not have a very brief meeting before the county board meeting next week and present the item for first reading to the county board?
That could be taken under consideration, and this one will also be included.
Yeah.
Just to that point, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point out that I believe what is contemplated for next Tuesday on the 24th is that there would be a executive committee meeting at 5 PM with 2 items, one in closed session, one in open session. Half an hour should be sufficient for that. And then the chair is contemplating a committee of the whole meeting to address some budget planning. So that should leave a small amount of time.
Yeah, but Mr. Chairman,
Mhm,
with our
mhm.
consideration tonight on the agenda,
Mhm.
yeah, I think we could dispose of it rather quickly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, we'll take that into consideration and we will
Good
address.
So it would be a meeting that night, and then it would be first reading at that meeting, second reading on April 14th, rather than doing
Sure.
a committee meeting on April 1st and second reading on the 14th.
That would work.
Thank you. And we'll work with Corporation Council on what that fiscal note needs to look like.
After that, Jeff, good to see you.
Thanks for having me. I'll just take a minute to introduce the project or property. The 2 parcels that are in question here are 1229 and 1230 6th Street in the city of Racine. They sit right on 6th Street off of just west of Marquette Street. Jeff's team first approached me about these properties probably about 3 years ago, and we have been pursuing foreclosure action in subsequent years against these properties. The previous owner, actually a lien holder of the previous owner, had stepped up in 2 previous years to redeem the foreclosable certificate and remove them from foreclosure action. On our 3rd attempt at foreclosure, we were successful this time through. The appraised value of the properties came at $55,000. And the CDA has presented a bid for those properties at that $55,000. I'm recommending them for approval. I included a map, an aerial map of the properties. The CDA already controls 27 acres adjacent to these parcels. It's my opinion that long-term best use for these parcels would be to combine them with that adjacent parcel and give an opportunity for the CDA to do a larger development in that area.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here. In terms of the plans for the property, we did do a phase 1 with permission of the county to get access. There is like most Racine properties that have an industrial legacy history. There are brownfield issues with it. We conveniently got a grant this year from the EPA to be able to deal with cleaning up properties such as this. So we definitely have funding to take care of the property if we were to be successful in acquiring this. We would perform what's known as a phase 2. That's where we actually do core samples and figure out, what is there. The property's phase 1 report noted a tannery and other, heavier industrial uses that are likely to have contamination with them. The original intent for this property about, right when I started with the city, probably 9 years ago or so, 10 years ago, it was started before I came on board with the city, but there was a developer lined up. The city had actually spent money rerouting a water utility line that was through the middle of the property at the city's cost to go around where the development would go. So that was successfully taken place. If you look at historical aerials of the property from several years ago, you'll see construction pipe for a water project on the property to prepare for a development for townhomes that would go down the hill and then on the property. That developer is long since gone. Thus our action here. They no longer exist, can't be found, whatever. So the CDA, having owned the other 27 acres, we have been working with the EPA and the DNR to clean up what was once the case plant. We've got our final submittals into the DNR for that currently, and they're pending approval. With that, the city also does have an award-winning plan from the State Planning Association, wing of the American Planning Association, a redevelopment plan for residential and potential mixed use on the balance of these properties. We've been working towards design and schematics of a river walk that would complement that design. We've had a somewhat difficult time finding developers, given we don't have final closure from the DNR on the bulk of that. So now that is imminent. We've taken the steps to do a riverfront kind of menu of options for what a plan would look like for the design of the actual river walk that would complement future developments on that property. So this dovetails into that nicely, being able to control the river frontage, at least with a public access component for citizens, in Racine, certainly as the local jurisdiction as well as the county, to be able to walk along the south side of the river, either walk, bike, whatever, from the lakefront all the way to the 6th Street Bridge would be, paramount to our success in the redevelopment of these properties. If there's questions on any of that, I'll be happy to take those, and I would appreciate your consideration.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Miller.
just a commendation. I mean, probably many of us have driven over the bridge and looked at that building, wondering if someone would come along to help development, and this sounds like a great possible plan.
Supervisor Caprillion.
Do it. Thank you. So I have just a few concerns. First of all, Jeff, it's nice to see you. Well, you too, Jeff. Jeff's, it's nice to see you. So, just looking at what is in the documentation that was provided for us for this meeting this evening, I see that, what we have is, the city proposing, was it $55,000? Is that how much for both the properties? I just want to know, this is just 1230. You don't have a picture of 1229 in here.
I do and I don't. So there's two pictures there. The back one is a little more of an angle and it goes underneath the bridge area. So 1229 sits on the south. Or I'm sorry.
1229 would be right here. So this is actually still 1230. You're kind of standing on the shore. So I don't know if you grabbed the wrong picture, but
Yeah. So the first picture is, the picture was taken from across the river. So the first picture is 1230, which sits directly on the north side of Sixth Street. And then the second picture, I tried to get the angle underneath the bridge for Sixth Street, but 1229 sits directly on the south side of Sixth Street and is visible underneath the overpass.
yeah. I am familiar with the area. I used to do watershed education for 8 years right out of the rec building right there. So I think I just want to clarify because I think Corporation Council validated one of my concerns this evening regarding the need of the full board. Is that why we are going to the resolution, right? So we need the first and second reading.
Yes.
Okay, very good, because I noticed in there, it just said for committee, so. So my concern is that this did not go this wasn't a sealed bid. This was just given to the municipality, just like as we see in the Mount Pleasant one. And I honestly think we put the treasurer's office in quite a pickle. And I think, because there is some gray area that the county can use a certain level of discrepancy. The problem is it sits in your lap, in your office. And I could say, our government is structured by policies and resolutions and codes. And here's an area where you don't have that. And so then you're faced with making a judgment call. And I'm not questioning this use of public access. 1229, I'd have more question about than I do on 1230. Because 1229, if I'm familiar with it, and it really sits by another property, and it's really not a buildable property whatsoever. And I happen to know there is somebody who moved into our community and loved Racine, has already invested $1 million plus in the property that sits right by it, and has been sitting waiting for this property to go to bid because they knew the history of it. They did their research before moving to our community, and it never went. And their use of it is for public access. So that not only gives us public access, but it puts it on the tax roll. We give it to the city, we lose that income. So ultimately getting the same thing, but you have a different controller over it, right? So I'm talking 1229, but then I'm also talking about the process in general. I feel for your office, and I'm not questioning any wrongdoing, but I think that we need to do a better job to set a structure up to help guide you to make decisions, how to use or when these asks come from neighboring municipalities, how does Racine County handle this? Because ultimately, once we give to another municipality, what we're saying is we're not trusting the bid process. So that fair market value that we saw in there, because I hope you guys looked at the fair market value on these combined properties. We're not even covering one fair market value of one property. right? So basically it's saying we're not having confidence, or we're not, I don't know, like fish whatever word you want out of the word pool, but um, we're not allowing it for the fair market or the individuals to come in and say, how much do we value it? And we want to invest in it. And ultimately helping the county receive some money and put it on the tax roll. That's what we need. Budget after budget after budget, even sitting on the city council, budget after budget after budget. We just don't have those funds coming in. We need to find avenues. We keep shutting it off if we're just passing around, like these properties, for example. Here's one way to open that up. We just got done discussing at one of our last county board or the finance meetings, something that affected only a few thousands of dollars. You had Chairman Kramer said, well, you got to start somewhere. It's $1,000 here, $1,000 here, 1,000, it all adds up. Well, here's $55,000. A fair market value, I think, on one of these properties is $330,000. So we just shut off the bid for that property. And, I hear, I got a little bit different of a pulse because I represent the city of Racine, my constituency, that there's interest in that property. The question could be, well, where were they last year, the year before that? But however, they're here right now. And we just shut that off. So there are people who are waiting for these to go to bid. And it looks like, I think the paperwork that was sent in our documents this evening, that I think it was signed by the city in January. So this has been going on for a few months, at least with the county. I can't support this for that, but I think the bigger thing is that we need to help the treasurer's office out here. We need to come up, maybe with the help of Corporation Council, to set a better framework when municipalities ask for properties.
Understood, and I appreciate your feedback and position. Corporation Council may be able to speak to this or echo this, but the reason that these would be put forward for resolution is because they are outside of that standard sale process. So the burden's not exclusively on me. The burden's not exclusively on you. There's going to be 21 county board supervisors that are going to be able to review this and weigh in on their approval. So I don't feel that burden. I recognize what you're saying, but I don't feel that burden. And to speak to the revenue, I absolutely agree. I mean, there certainly is a potential cost to the county in that if we put these properties up for sealed bid sale, there's certainly an opportunity that we receive more than $55,000 in bid on them. No question that one bit. One of my considerations is that if you look at these sites, these are not sites that are going to cater to most of the people that participate in our sealed bid sales. Most of the people that participate in our sealed bid sales are less sophisticated than what is going to be required to put this site back into development. So certainly we could sell this potentially for $65,000. But if it goes to the wrong person, long-term, we're doing more harm to the community than we are good by getting that additional $10,000 in revenue. I maximize the revenue whenever possible. Last year, we had 1.9 million in sales through the sealed bid sale. The year before, we had 2 million in sales through the sealed bid sale. When I took over, the average was $300,000 a year. So I absolutely recognize what you're saying. I do believe that there needs to be an opportunity for intergovernmental cooperation here in situations like this. And long-term best use is a significant consideration that I use when I am making a recommendation in these types of situations.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I know Corporation Council is ready to speak, but one thing to say to your point, my concern is with 1229, and I wish we had a better picture. I have it on an overview on my map here, but it's behind another property. And so if the city's going to acquire that, what access to that is through this other person's property. So that means at some point, if they have some development plan, they're going to look to eradicate or acquire that property as well. And that's concerning for me. And as for this going to resolution, I don't remember that. I mean, I haven't been as long term as the rest of the members here, But that was my concern, is that this hasn't gone. This is like a new thing that I'm hearing this evening for these items. So maybe it's the solution that's been because of what I've heard. I know I've talked to you about these properties months ago. And so now we recognize these do need to go to resolution. I don't know if it's the solve all be all. I think there needs to be something a little more detailed. So not saying your hands are tied on these ones, but this isn't the first time you've given properties to municipalities. So, and from the statements that were said to me is, right, you don't want it in the wrong hands. And that's assuming the city's hands or the municipality's hands are the right hands for it to be in.
Fair point.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not to agree with or to take issue with anything that Supervisor Caprillion stated. I just wanted to address just that legal issue. What we're referring to, this is section 7-57 of the Racine County Code of Ordinances that sets forth the sealed bid process. It delegates the authority from the county board to this committee, the Finance and Human Resources Committee, to accept those bids. But it specifically exempts the conveyance to municipalities or to the state. And so to Supervisor Capillion's point, there is a past practice, and it's not, the county treasurer giving properties to a municipality or to the state. It's by action of the full county board. So rather than delegating it to this sub-body, it's the full county board is required to act by resolution in order to convey it to a municipality or to the state. I can recall in the last 5-7 years, City of Racine, City of Burlington, Village of Caledonia, there have been a number of conveyances to municipalities, all by action, not of this committee, but of the full county board.
Supervisor Spencer?
Yeah, is there, like, can we separate these properties?
We certainly can. So whether, we speak as to whether or not the historical practice needs to be adjusted, our historical practice from the county treasurer's perspective is anytime I've had adjacent lots that have been available for sale, I've always packaged them as a package deal. My concern in having adjacent lots and presenting them as individual purchases is that the prime lots are going to get cherry picked by the purchasers, and then the county is going to be essentially stuck holding the bag for the less desirable lots. So anytime we've had adjacent lots, consistent with historical practices, they've been presented as a package deal in any of our sealed bid sales. That's not to say that they couldn't be presented individually, but to that point, and Supervisor Caprillion, to your point, Jeff Hintz has had conversation with an adjacent neighbor, and I think he's prepared to speak to those conversations as well.
The adjacent neighbor at the old carpet warehouse building has been doing some good work. She recently, and her husband, I believe, to rezone the property. They've got a good redevelopment for a somewhat blighted property, not as bad as some of the others in the city. But she has approached us. Just not any commentary on her or her situation, but a lot of people lack the experience that like the CDA would have in terms of remediating a brownfield to the point where the DNR will close it out. It's certainly possible. People do it all the time. Given that we have grant funding to do so, we're prepared to do that. And our desire would be, as you noted, it's not a buildable lot. It's not very practical for development at all for really anybody except for the adjacent owner. Our intent would be ultimately the CDA's call as if this goes through, would be the ultimate owner of it. Director Williams and I are prepared to recommend to the CDA that, once it's to a state of being clean and, cleared by the DNR, to pay taxes on it. I mean, that's the intent for all these ones that we would get is we'll clean them up, get a developer and then pay taxes. Certainly the logical owner on the 1229 would be the lady, I forget her name now, but that owns that carpet warehouse building is redeveloping it. It'd be a great yard space area by the river. And if, she wants to, allow public access through easement or whatever, the CDA could guarantee that if we acquired it and then, deeded it to her with an easement on it. But our intent would be just to do that exact thing, but just for the resources the city has through EPA grants and DNR and experience, our experience has generally been that we're in a better position to get the remediation from the DNR than, private owners of individual businesses, but it is not impossible.
Do I still have the floor? I don't, my mic is
Go
still
ahead.
on, but I don't want to assume anything.
Go ahead.
All right, very good. Thank you. I think you could probably agree that if she went through the bid process, she'd probably have an ability to purchase that property at a lower price than if remediation was done, the lot was in a different state, maybe, you know, where all the work that you said was going to be done. And even making an agreement, you know, she's already made a significant investment. You do understand that. And, you know, I'm happy to hear that you spoke with her personally. I will tell you that I know that she's talked to another individual that I'm not going to name, but that it hasn't been so pleasant with the city. So, and they basically laid out some threats, which is concerning. So if we leave the authority, you know, I don't want a bullying situation to take place. You know, this um, ultimately, I'm hoping that, you know, when we have an opportunity, when you have some properties and you have some interest, you know, we want this to get back on the tax roll, and we want to build a better and more beautiful community. And I hear your intentions, and I know you said you have some EPA dollars. You know, I don't know exactly. You mentioned other properties as well, like how much? And, you know, there's no guarantee. Is there something signed that's saying these dollars are allotted? This is how it was put in the EPA grant, whatever it may be, then it could guarantee, or else it's just words coming at me. And I know that the county, or excuse me, the city gets grants to clean up brownfields, but is it specific to this property? Or is it just telling me the possibilities of what we're capable of doing? So I have some concerns. I have some concerns about where this one is located. And if you have somebody who's already invested in our community, I think $1.5 million already on that one property, and wanted to extend it on her property, what would be behind it, which isn't her property, but she would like it to be for public access. I would have liked to see this gone to the sealed bid process. And so they would have had an opportunity. That's what I would have liked to see, to allow for those possibilities. We can't act like the city or the county is the be all know all on what we should be doing, and we are the one with the righteous answers. We're just a body of people who just live in neighborhoods who make decisions. I mean, I'm not saying those who have department positions, you guys have a level of expertise, but we ultimately are the ones who have to vote on it. And you know, anyways, so it gives me heartburn over this one. I do have a question on procedure though. If this is going for first and second reading, it's not,
no.
this one is not.
This one is not. This is going for first reading. Excuse me. This is
The committee.
in front of the committee on the 24th, next Tuesday, by the committee, and then recommended for first reading that evening to the county board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting, Amy. Authorize a 3-year agreement, 2026 through 2029 with Tyler Technologies for the payment of jurors. Action requesting first reading, March 24th, 2026 at the county board meeting. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I have Kirsten Malecki, my deputy, with me. So yeah, we're requesting authorization to enter into a multi-year contract with Tyler Technologies for payment of jurors. So utilizing Tyler Technologies, basically we would be calling it court funds for juror compensation, would provide a more efficient and cost-effective process for the county. The cost for us to issue a card to each juror, which then we would, Tyler Technologies would load the money onto that card, is about 73 cents per transaction. And everyone knows basically the cost of postage right now is 78 cents to just mail out a check. So right there, right now there's a cost savings right there. So the juror payment process right now requires staff time and county resources to cut and issue paper checks, enter all the information in the county software. We enter all of that manually. We have to address lost or stolen checks. We have to stop payment on issued checks, reissue replacement checks. And then we have to manage related follow-up and reconciliation tasks. Transitioning to Tyler Technologies would streamline these processes, reduce manual administrative work, lower risk associated with lost or fraudulent checks. This would be a huge cost savings to the county. One of the things that we looked at was savings with printing, postage, the toner, as well as staff time related to avoiding unclaimed checks and other reconciling activities. Actually, he left. The treasurer actually did a cost analysis for us regarding any estimated loss of future county income and indicated that the fee per transaction would be a savings of about $4 per transaction. And that estimate was about $4.73 per check that we issue. And if you take out the 73 cents per card, the approximate, so the savings would be $4. And then our break even threshold would be issuing about 2,300 juror payments. So sending out about 2,300 checks per year. And last year we issued about 2,900, over 2,900 checks. So we would be looking at a cost savings for sure.
Supervisor Miller. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I commend you for some staggering possible cost savings. My question is, how is a juror going to get this card?
So when the juror checks in for their service, we actually are going to have the cards ready with their name. The software that the company has, we actually scan it. We'll scan it ahead of time. So as soon as they check in, we'll have that card ready. So they're going to receive that card. We'll have full instructions for them when they check in. And then it's basically their database. We would take our database, take that information, put it in their database, scanning the card.
They would load the card then.
And then as soon as the jury, as soon as it's done for that week, we upload that to their software. And then within 24 hours, they upload the payments. And what's nice is they actually they're doing all the communicating. So we have to have cell phone number or email address, which we typically get with all of our juror questionnaires anyway. And then they communicate. So we have to discuss if we're going to tell them a date that we're going to say, hey, the funds are going to be here by this date. So if we say, if they have jury service this week, we could say it would be a week from the following Monday that their funds would be available, but they'll also get a message as soon as those funds are available. So we could say it'll be there by this date, but it could also be there earlier. So we haven't decided how we're going to facilitate that yet. If we're going to do it, tell them a date, or if we're just going to say they'll get a message ahead of time, but there'll be a lot of communication. And then we also can communicate with them as a follow-up. So if they haven't used their card within, typically a uncashed check is 90 days. So after 100 days, there's a fee if they haven't used the card. So we could send out text message reminders and or email reminders. Even we can do that with their software and say, hey, you haven't used your card yet. You might want to use that, or a fee is going to start coming off of the card.
That answers a lot of my questions, but I still have a concern because in reading the contract, it was somewhat confusing. Would any of our jurors ever have to give this company or the county like a bank account number?
No, so they have the ability to contact the company and all the customer service goes through the company. So if they decide that they want a paper check issued, if they tell us ahead of time, the company can issue them a paper check. So we don't have to do that. They can do all of their transferring themselves. So they can transfer it to a PayPal account. They can transfer it to a Venmo account. They can transfer it to their own bank account without communicating even with the company. They'll have all the information from the company.
Okay, and that last bit of information, this is the one concern I had. I don't want our jurors to have to give another company their bank accounts.
Yeah, they won't have to give their bank accounts.
Thank you.
Supervisor Wish?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there's a financial value to the card. Is there anything printed on the back of the card that would say what you just said? That you've got 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days to do it? What do you do with the card? I guess you can't take it to a grocery store, can you?
Yes,
It's
the
like-
card
it's
is
like
like
a
a
credit
debit,
card,
it's
a
like a
gift card.
debit card, credit card.
Okay.
So that's essentially, that's how the company makes their money because they get the feed that all, like, I think it's a MasterCard. So they get the feed that they would
So it
get
is
from
like, it's like a
MasterCard.
credit card,
Yep.
basically, or a
Correct.
debit card.
Yeah, but it
But-
has money on it, so you
Okay,
can't over.
so can you imprint on the back of the card, or can they have that just printed on there that you have 120 days to cash this in, so you don't have to do the follow-up?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna give them that direction, so that'll be part of when they check in for jury service. We're gonna explain the whole card setup with them and explain everything to them. So hopefully, you know, if they're listening, hopefully they will all get that
And
information.
that's a good point, because they may not be listening, so my,
Yes.
my.
And then
question
I-
Still goes back to.
I haven't seen the cards yet because they haven't sent them to us until we actually implement this, but they'll have like some handouts for like customer service and stuff. So if they have any questions, typically they can call them. Apparently their customer service is really good to deal with. There's other counties in the state that are already using them and they said they're fantastic.
Okay, I do have another question.
Yep.
I deal with Tyler every day. I don't know if it's the same Tyler. Where are they located?
It's Tyler Technologies.
If I could help with that, our
Yeah.
financial ERP system, HR and payroll system are also Tyler Technologies. They are a huge conglomerate.
Yeah.
So they are located, at least for the financials, in Texas and in Maine.
So not Florida.
They might have, I mean, they have, because it's cloud services, they are all over the country, all over the country.
Yeah.
For financials, it's Texas and Maine.
Okay, just FYI, Florida's not very good. And I'll tell you why. Every time there's a major storm, hurricane, whatever, their computers are down.
This
So
says
it's-
that they're in Logan, Utah.
Okay, much better. My question answered. Thank you.
Amy, what counties are using them?
Sauk County and Wood County currently, for sure. And I think they came, they were at our conference last fall, so I think there's other counties that have recently signed up or are going through the process right now of signing up.
Thank you.
Yep.
I need a motion, please.
Just what did those two counties say about it?
Yeah.
We actually just had a conference call with Sauk County because we wanted to see what and she did a whole screen share with us and she said it's been absolutely fantastic. She said, you know, when they hand out the cards, she does this whole spiel with the jurors and talks about, you know, don't lose your card. And, you know, even if they lose the card, they'll replace them and it's no cost to us. So even if we're paying the initial 73 cents, if a juror loses the card, but she said she's only had like 2 people that have actually lost their card. And there's no cost to us. They just reissue them a card. But I mean, she said they're absolutely fantastic to deal with. She hasn't had any issues. They've been using them for probably a year now. I think they started last year using them.
I'd move to send this to the county board for first reading, March 24th. Second.
First and a second. Comments?
I have a quick comment.
Yes.
Chairman. Thank you. Again, Amy, green is a great color for you. But
I work for you.
yeah. Great job. I mean, here, you know, I just got done in the last agenda item talking about the little bit of savings here and here and that Chairman Kramer spoke before us. And I mean, here's like a 5 cents saving, but that adds up. So, I mean, it tells that you're really, what's that?
$4.
$4.
Yeah, it's significant ultimately because it accumulates. And so some people could look at it the other way. Well, it's just here. So job well done. And I'm assuming that if a juror had lost a check in the past, would you guys have to pay a fee to reissue?
Yeah.
Okay. So that eliminates that completely. So I just needed a comment. Job well done. And, you know, thank you for this level of detail too.
And it doesn't surprise me that they will reissue a card in a card because they don't get paid unless it's used.
They're planning on everyone using them, so.
So, correct.
If I can add 2 things to this.
Yes.
Other component with it, because it's the finance department who's issuing the check, we're also responsible for the tax liability. So we would have to issue 1099s, we have to collect W-9s. It's very, very very burdensome for both departments. And to your point, Supervisor Miller, there are a lot of folks who don't want to give over their social security number. So I made the decision when I came in as director of vast majority of them are under the 1099 threshold. We're not going to collect social security numbers. We'll get them later if we have to get them, just to kind of streamline stuff. But this is one way that's the burden will be off of us. It'll live with the company. And then we also already do this in the jail. When folks are leaving the jail, they receive a debit card, and they've been doing that for years, probably a decade, and it works beautifully. So I have every anticipation that this is going to be a smooth transition for her department and ours.
Nice job collaborating, all the departments.
Yes.
Beautiful. I have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? Youth and governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor? Are there any opposition? Hearing none, this will go to the county board, first reading on March 24th, 2026. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Chairman, can we have a 3-minute bathroom break?
3 minutes, that's it. It's getting, I said I'd be done.
By when?
I'm not gonna comment.
2:58.
Thank you.
We are now going to move on to human resources, authorize a tentative agreement between Racine County and Racine County Sheriff's Office command staff for the years of 2025 through 2028, requesting first reading for March 24th, County Board Meeting 2026. Sarah, I'm going to let you start this, and then I'm going to leave it to Chief Deputy Widener.
Thank you. So good evening, Chairman and members of the committee. Before you, you have the 2025 to 2028 command contract. We began working on negotiations with the team back in December of 2025, shortly after I met with all of you with the deputy contract. Our county's team included Michael Lansdorf, Jim Widener, the county executive, and myself, and we worked collaboratively with a small group of about 5 sergeants and lieutenants, and along with their WPPA representative, and WPPA stands for Wisconsin Professional Police Association. they also had someone from there at the table. It was a collaborative process, a positive process, and I'm happy to report that we were able to reach an agreement. This contract covers 22 command staff members, 14 sergeants, and 8 lieutenants. So it's a relatively small group compared to the Deputy Association contract. And as this committee may recall, we came and discussed strategy in a closed session on January 21st, just to make sure that we were on the right track. At that time, we indicated that the command staff was interested in adding longevity back into the contract. And the committee expressed that they were not interested in that. So we were able to maintain our position, and there are no longevity payments included in this agreement. I'll just give you some overview of some of the highlights of things that are included. We capped comp time at 240 hours, which is the same as what was done in the deputy's contract. Added holiday pay at time and a half and double time for any overtime worked on a holiday, which is also the same as what's in the deputy contract. Added a third shift premium of $1.50 per hour when working third shift. Again, same as the deputy contract. We updated some leave language and the retirement language to match what's also in the deputy contract. And we made a change to the uniform allowance. Command staff members used to receive a uniform allowance at the beginning of each year. And so starting in 2027, they'll no longer use that allowance. And the county will implement a quartermaster program so that they will receive different pieces of their uniform on a regular interval. And there's several benefits to implementing this program. And hopefully it'll be cost saving as well. As far as the wages goes, the proposal reflects our deliberate strategy to try to address some compression and improve differentiation across the different ranks. So we were trying to reduce the spread between investigators and sergeants. So that started out at 18.6%, and we got it down to 16%. And at the same time, we were increasing the spread between sergeants and lieutenants from about 4.75% to 10%. So we're able to reflect the increased leadership responsibilities that the lieutenants have once they promote to that rank. So overall, I feel like this agreement addresses wage compression. It improves our internal equity. And it aligns with the deputy contract. So I'll turn it over to Jim if there's anything you would like to add.
Thank
Chief
you.
Widener, I should say.
Thank you, Director Street. Thank you, Director Street. I compliment everyone for the process that we're at here today. It's taken a long period of time, a lot of negotiations, a lot of give and take. And I compliment everyone that was involved with this. It's not something that happens immediately. It's a long, thoughtful process. Chief Deputy.
Director Street did a very good job of providing an overview of the contract and the process. I would just echo what she had stated. It was a very positive process for the county working with the Supervisors Association and their WPPA representation. I believe the contract ultimately is very positive. It resulted in an equitable contract. There's positives for the county and positives for the supervisors. And a couple of those Director Street did call out specifically, keeping those wages appropriate, addressing some of the differentiation between ranks and having more more organized approach to that percentage difference than what we've experienced in the past. So I feel at the end of the day, it was a very equitable contract.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question on the change. It appears maybe, well, just an explanation why when you're promoted, you're going to get 5 weeks of vacation, looks like automatically. That was in 1103. I'm just curious what that's all
Yeah,
about.
I can speak to that. So years ago, most of the command members, before they were promoted, they were part of the agency for several years and had already maxed out their vacation by the time they were promoted. And we aren't seeing that as much, especially having lateral transfers that come in as deputies. So it just encourages people with that experience that may not already have that vacation to want to promote. I don't know if there's anything you would add to that.
No, that's a accurate reflection. This is why their association asked for this during the negotiation process, is because we are seeing a greater move towards laterals amongst agencies. And when those laterals do come over, they come with a variety of experiences. Some were supervisors at their previous agency. So really our agency benefits from bringing those lateral transfers in, and we see them really kind of elevate through the organization at a quicker pace oftentimes because of that experience that they have. So although they may not have the years of service that reflects that level of vacation with us, their overall experience within law enforcement is greater. And this is why that the Supervisors Association made a request during the negotiation process for this.
Just one follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Jim, I don't know if this is possible. Is there a typical, for our deputies, is there a typical seniority time when they would reach the status of sergeant?
Maybe not.
It really just depends on the individual, the level of experience that they have and their desires. I mean, we see people sometimes
quickly could
very
somebody
early on, I would say maybe in the 5 to 10 year range, you start to see, people move and look at promotions. Some are earlier, some are later.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Wish.
thank you. Can you define comp time for me? How does it work?
So it's when an employee is working more than 8 hours a day or 40 hours in a week that they're able to bank comp time instead of being paid overtime. And so that comp time accumulates in a bank, and previously the cap was 480. That's the IRS cap. And so we were having employees when they retired or if they were promoted outside of the association, cashing out on had a very large bank, and it was quite expensive for the county. And also there's an administrative burden because you have to go back and report it to WS in the year that it was earned. So they might have to go back 10, 15 years and be reporting that to WRS.
So 240 hours approved by whom? Who approves the comp time versus overtime?
So when an individual earns overtime, they have the opportunity to either take it in pay or take it in comp. So they've been authorized for the overtime, and this is their option, which way they would like to take it, and they can bank that comp time. And this has been a goal for the county for many years during negotiations, and this allows the Supervisors Association to fall in alignment with the negotiations that took place with the Deputies Association, bringing that level of comp time down and easing some of the fiscal burden on the administrative burden on finance, but also the unknown fiscal burden when somebody would potentially cash out that comp time. And also they can earn it when they first begin as deputies and bank that comp time, so they can earn it technically at a lower rank, at a lower rate. And then when they decide to cash out, it is at that current level.
May know the answer, but I'm going to ask. Overtime and comp time. Okay, I'm assuming whoever the supervisor is for that particular person approves it, and then they keep track of that, or who keeps track of the comp time? Thank you.
So yes, all of the overtime is always authorized by supervision based off of a case by case situation. And then when they earn their time, it's tracked through finance, through the software. When they decide to whether they're taking pay and overtime pay or whether they're taking comp time.
So it's recorded by you guys. Okay, finance. Okay, and then one last thing. The supervisory staff they're all entitled to 5.5 weeks vacation?
The lieutenants or sergeants and lieutenants through this contract would be eligible for the 200 hours, correct?
And so it's not recorded by how long they've been with the sheriff's department? It's just, I'm a sergeant now, I get 5.5 weeks vacation.
Correct. And this was something that they requested and negotiated into this contract.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thanks to everyone. I would move to send this to County Board for first reading, March 24th.
I have a first and a second. Additional discussion from the committee. Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? This is approved by this committee for first reading to take place at the county board on March 24th, 2026. Thank you, Jim Widener.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a nice night.
Okay, next we have up Sarah Street, authorized changes to the fiscal note for resolution 2025-94 by the Finance and Human Resource Committee, authorizing modifications to the compensation structures for non-represented Racine County employees. Action requested, first reading March 24th, 2026. Sarah?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I believe that you were referring to the original agenda. It has been amended. So the only action that's expected this evening is of the committee only. That resolution, specifically 2025-94, is already scheduled for a second reading at March 24th. The only action before this committee is action on the revised fiscal note.
Didn't I say revised?
No.
No, I did not. Well, no, because I must be reading the non-amended. Yes,
Yeah, right.
okay. So let me reread that, please. Thank you, Michael. Authorize changes to the fiscal note for resolution 2025-94 by the Finance and Human Resource Committee, authorizing modifications to the compensation structure and classification for non-represented Racine employees. Action of the committee only. Resolution 2025-94 is scheduled for second reading at the March 24th County Board meeting. So I need a motion.
Move to approve the amended fiscal note.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Discussion.
Maybe let Sarah explain it.
Sarah, could you, yes, get into the print, the fine print, please?
Sure. So the amended fiscal note reflects the fringe rate with the salary study wages. So that was a request that was made, I believe, last week at the county board meeting, that the fringe amount be included. So that's what you see before you. The fringe director Zimmer has added that fringe amount to the fiscal note.
Thank you. Now I remember. Thank you.
And just a question, when is this shouldn't go to the county board in the regular packet then? Okay.
Yes, I believe it will go from here to the county board in the regular packet.
Yeah, it should.
Just for the benefit of our colleagues, if we could somehow flag it or note it so they know what's going on with that.
Thank you. Did I hear a motion?
Yep.
And a second?
Yes, sir.
Any additional discussion? Youth and Governance, all in favor? Committee, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Hearing none. This is approved. It's approved and will go to the county board. Second reading, March 24th, 2026. Thank you. Next up, Finance Department, Gwen Zimmer, Racine County 2026 bi-monthly large capital projects. Gwen?
Thank you. By ordinance, I'm required to present bi-monthly the status of large capital projects. This is that report. One thing I'd like to note is the actuals for the YDCC. What's listed in the packet is 54 million. That is not correct. We're working on a credit related to the roof and some other components of the building with Gilbane, our construction manager. We do fully expect that we'll be at that projected number or a little bit lower. But right now there is an expense in our GL. So I wanted to make sure I'm presenting what's in our financial system, but we do have credit that's outstanding.
Okay, this is a report. Could this be forwarded to the county board, please? And I just want to backtrack. Can we go to item, the discussion of the Waterford Management District, that be forwarded to the county board too? Thank you. Okay, we have number 14, I believe it is on my list. We have a closed session.
In which we can
Super.
dismiss the.
Supervisor Miller, yes, youth and governance, you can be dismissed for the closed session. And yeah, do you have transportation home? Do you have transportation, Gabby? Okay.
You too. Mr. Chairman, I would move that the Finance and Human Resources Committee. I would move that the Finance and Human Resources Committee meet in closed session pursuant to section 1985 1G of the Wisconsin State Statutes to discuss with legal counsel claims against Racine County, namely Thomas Workus. And the committee reserves the right to reconvene in regular session to take possible action on this item.
Roll call. We are back into open session.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we settle the claim of Thomas Workus for $25,372.62 as recommended by Corporation Counsel.
I have first and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this claim will be paid for $25,372.62 to Thomas Workus. Next up on the agenda is communications and report referrals.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we receive and file the communication and reports in item 15.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will be filed. Staff report, Finance and Human Resource Committee, next meeting, April 1, 2026, 5 PM. I need a motion to adjourn.
Chairman, the next meeting will be the 24th.
Oh, excuse me, that's right. It'll be the 24th.
Before the county board.
Before the county board meeting, and I'm guessing, what, around 6:15? Because Michael said there was two other meetings. There was the executive meeting, committee of the whole, and then our meeting. Well, look for your agendas and we'll fit it in there, okay?
And if I can make just one more announcement, I wanted to announce to the committee that we received award of our 2024 financial report, I think for the 14th or 15th year in a row. So I'm working with Ralph's office to have a press release sent out.
How many years in a row?
I think 15, 14, something like that.
Congratulations. We need to report that and say that at the county board meeting too. And I think there's going to be an announcement made, a press release.
Yep, I'm gonna work with Ralph's office.
Okay, great. Congratulations on you and your department.
And the three supervisors to my right have to sign this property sale. Oh, never mind.
Thank you.
Just one deal, right?
Correction, supervisor to my left.